Okay, so we are live again. Welcome back to CO.LAB Sound. In just a moment, we'll have a improvised experimental performance by Ken Byers for you. But for now, let me do a quick little introduction and just a little bit of information about what we're going to be doing this evening. So Ken Byers is a part of our CO.LAB group. He's a multimedia digital artist and has a techno-romantic approach to body and technology. He kind of works with speculative sci-fi, perceptions, and the human condition in his practice. He kind of crosses between science, audiovisual, technology, philosophy, 3D animation, sound, VR, body interactive 3D visuals, and experimental sound. It's all very, very exciting. And tonight we're going to be doing almost an improvised experimental performance for you. So nothing has been planned beforehand, and we're going to see where the music takes us. I'm going to hand over to Ken. And we'll get set up for you in just a moment. Over to you. absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Ken. We'll just take a second to switch over to kind of a Q&A mode now. Thank you so much. I think, especially coming from an improvised experimental standpoint, it's always so interesting to see where these kind of performances will go. Let me pop into the Facebook questions. How did you feel the kind of improvising went on that, Ken?
Just a minute. I'll just. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Take your time.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, right. I was going to share my screen so you could see me, but it's a camera problem. How did I feel? Well, actually, I'm a bit nervous, and because I haven't done this before actually online, so it's first time. So I kind of I enjoy anything which is experimental, really. Yeah.
Well, I think it went remarkably well for a first kind of online streamed experimental.
Yeah, there's nothing prepared at all, actually. I mean, some things can be prepared, but I prefer the mode of going with the feeling.
Yeah, there's something quite nice about just jumping into the unknown with that. As I'm kind of keeping an eye on our Facebook questions, and if anybody does have any questions, feel free to comment on our Facebook live stream that's going at the moment. Did you want to just give a little more background about your practice, Ken, and maybe how you kind of came into experimental music a bit more?
Yeah. Well, I'm originally a visual artist, but then before a visual artist, way back in, I'm getting older now. In the 70s, in my hippie days, I was into progressive underground music, but also at the same time classical electronic, like and jazz, everything. And I didn't really consider sound in my work until quite a while now, but. Primarily, I kind of moved to visual art. I thought that's what you had to do, but the time, and I didn't realize, I just discovered myself doing well. I moved into digital work, and I started working with film and animation, and I wanted to make my own sound. And I'd already played, many instruments. Well, I play bass, play guitar, and so many electronic instruments, and also a flute as well. And so. I suppose I'm a little bit of a musician, but there again, it's improvisation. It's no scales and things like this. I don't play. Well, obviously they're very useful. But what I mean is that I don't learn tunes. I never have on a guitar or anything. I just prefer to improvise. And so sound came into my work, and I started exploring what is sound and sound waves. And I wanted to get into I don't know, a bit the technical, I guess, and I wanted to discover what sound waves were and what you could do with them, and how you could marry or pretty well, consider the visual as well as the sound, and there's so many different ways of doing that, of course. And so this is an interesting journey. It's a very interesting journey, yeah. And of course, the interactive work I do. I wanted to interact with the sound and on the visuals as well. So I started doing this. It's a little bit complicated, actually. But there again, it opens up those, I suppose, interstices between like the gaps in between things where perhaps another art arrives through that. I'm not sure. Yeah. But this is how art arrives, I think, discovering something that's not hasn't been looked at in this, or needs to be looked at in another, or can be looked at in different ways. Yeah. Anyway.
I think. Oh, you said so many interesting things to me just there. I guess first, I guess as an artist myself and a curator, and a lot of the research I've kind of been doing in experimental sound, actually a lot of the stuff I've been following is in the kind of underground experimental art scene in England, kind of from 60s and 70s. And it just keeps popping up as an area of interest to me. So I think that will be a longer kind of conversation there. But I guess going with the collaboration and improvising, this is something Nadia and I talked a little bit about last night as well. There's something really freeing about just responding and listening, and kind of going with your gut in that. And
Yeah.
there's
Especially enough when you say, it's funny because when you say gut, I'm quite interested in feeling sound. We all know that like subsonic sounds affect the body. You don't even hear them. You can actually record the body, and you have to kind of raise it up several octaves so you can hear it, like blood flow and things, muscle sounds. And I don't do that. But I'm meaning is that what was it? Yeah, that. I think actually I forgot what pardon, I forgot the question.
I think I kind of just started rambling about improvising, really, but I think I guess from the kind of collaborations that we've been doing so far with the Exquisite Corpse, and I guess me kind of having the overview on it, it's been really interesting the way you've been kind of interacting with our group and really opened the idea of like an improvised collaboration. And is that something that you've worked with for a while?
No, actually, I opened up the idea because one actually saw this. Oh, it's FaB, the Fringe Arts Bath that that CO.LAB sound. I thought this sounds interesting. This is maybe an opportunity where people get together. This is what I first originally thought. CO.LAB sound, that it was an idea that people were going to get together in some way to collaborate in sound projects. I knew no more than that. So yes, I think it's exciting if it the and also we can do that through online, which is so like from your home. So you can have this is really interesting. Yeah.
I think one of the things that kind of has been brought up in these kind of previous talks I did in the last day or so, and that you kind of mentioned to me before we went live, is the fact that the kind of streaming and the online performance is kind of new, and we're having to adjust kind of to the online atmosphere. Do you feel like this kind of performance has kind of will make you explore your work in a different way, or has it scared you off from live streaming? I'm quite curious.
No. That was the question. Yeah, that I forgot actually. It's no. I intend to get into more. I don't actually gig very much, and especially online. It's the first time online. It's mainly private in my own room actually, but I do it for kind of animation films. But it's this is another area in the arts which I go regularly to what they call experimental gigs, noise gigs, and all sorts of folk, everything. It's a world type of sound. There's I think there's plenty of well, not enough, but there's places, venues out there that do the experimental gigs, and I'd like to get into it. And I didn't feel so much ready, and I'm just breaking into it. The sound's mainly been for my animation films and not gigging. It's like my interactive work was always for other people. It wasn't for me. It was because dancing or anything. It was for other people. But now I'm taking it more seriously. Like you say, I'm going to take the interactive. I never have not taken it seriously, but taking the aspect of sound into collaboration, into a network streamlined sound, well, I think is a great idea. Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to that. If that's going to happen, if that could happen, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're in that same mindset. I mean, obviously, because the festival has been moved online, things have been shifted a year down the line. But yeah, my hope for the festival was really just to get us all in a room and see what happened. And I think it's good to kind of see us all really starting to embrace that. One thing I'm particularly curious about, and it's because I've definitely not wrapped my head around it yet, is kind of your work with Arduino and that kind of kit and software. I have started to learn it myself, but I'm curious about how those kind of found its way into your practice and kind of what you use it with and for.
Well, when I got into digital arts and then new media, I started. It was a whole new thing. I've never coded before in my life, so it was a whole new process of coding it. And I hated it and loved it. I hated it. I liked it. I wanted to do something with it, but I couldn't do it. And it's been a long process of learning just some of the basics of coding, in new media for, I suppose, the interactive experimental side with the using the Arduino microcontrollers. I think that what you can do with these, actually, you can actually use computer vision and transfer. It could be flocks of birds, it could be microorganisms moving around, it could be people, you know, like an overhead camera in a street where you have people moving around. You can use computer vision and channel off all those dots to parameters in max in sound. And so I'm interested in actually those transitions between moving real natural moving data and moving that into sound. In fact, I'm thinking of making some form of sound sculpture that does this. So I've got, even though Arduino and using a breadboard seems like really small and, I don't know, interesting ideas, projects can be put together very quickly, I think, with using Max and Arduino, things that, you know, you think about doing. You may find later on there might be some better program, but I don't know, I think it's a very, for me, it's very interesting. I'm not sure everyone would, it's not everybody's type of thing, but for me, it's very interesting, yeah.
I particularly find it interesting, and I think the thing that really drew me to it, not only is like coding as language and kind of almost using sound as language as well, is kind of that DIY experimental kind of method with it, where you can just use it as real life sculpture. Yeah, I find it absolutely fascinating. I don't know where I was going with that. I'm just enjoying talking about it.
Yeah,
Later,
yeah.
later on in the festival, you're going to be running kind of a small workshop for some of the artists on Max 8. I guess I'd like to promote that a little bit now and say thank you for doing it. Absolutely amazing.
Oh, thanks for letting me do it, yeah.
Could you just touch on Max 8 briefly and kind of say how you kind of started using it in your practice?
Yeah, when it goes way back when I first started using it, when I wanted to discover what sound was. So I wanted to know what a square wave was, you know, a rectangle wave, a tri, and so I started using Max because you can do it in seconds. You can actually put a couple of oscillators and and alter the oscillator frequency. So it's a very fast and immediate way of producing a oscillator, and you might want to put several oscillators. And I think that uh, it's a very interesting program. What I was thinking of doing actually is just maybe an introduction, but maybe involve a little bit of sensor work set up here, and sensors like you know, infrared or ultrasonic sensor with. So you can operate it. So you can use a slider. This would operate a slider, or on a Max program for a filter for it could be an oscillator, it could be a filter. So you can alter sound through that. And I think that another thing actually was actually this net project. I've never done it before. Well, I've done it on my own computers, but I've never actually done it on a wider scale, global scale. So networking sound through like I think it's an MJX net project where it's just using, not say just, but it's using IP addresses to send data over the line through a OSC UDP, and that's something I can show. It sounds complicated, but it's not, and it's a very easy way of getting things, I suppose, using data from the sensors and getting it into Max and then altering musical instruments. There's loads of other ways you could use it, but so a simple introduction. I think a simple introduction would be really good, actually. Yeah, I mean, maybe there's more advanced users out there. I don't know. I don't know what. So, but maybe find out the first session, find out or before if whether, and then I know just how to, because I'm not really. I don't do this thing all the time, you know. I don't do like go teaching Max all the time. It's just new for me. So, but I think it's yeah. I think it could be good. Yeah.
I mean, that I really appreciate that, because one of the things one of the through lines through this whole project has been kind of peer learning and learning from each other, and knowing that You know, we have artists that are kind of all over the globe, and we are kind of having to transfer and email and use Dropboxes and shared drives. It'd be great for us kind of over this next year leading into next year's festival, have a way where we can a little more seamlessly collaborate online together. So I think that's going to be an absolutely amazing workshop for us, and I think quite an eye-opener for some of us that have never used it before as well. I think we should wrap up in just a moment. I want to say amazing job again. That was an absolute fantastic performance.
Well, thank you very much. I didn't think it was. Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, I didn't think it was very good myself, actually. But I mean, yeah.
We're always our hardest critics, and that's the thing with improvised. You never know how it's going to go as well. We will be back again tomorrow morning with another Exquisite Corpse, so do tune in for that. And it was lovely to speak with you a little more casually after the performance as well, Ken. And we'll see you in the workshop next week.
Right, yeah, okay. Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a lovely rest of your evening.